Hello and welcome to Rathod Science Academy. Today in this session, we are going to see current affairs of 21st September 2024. So let's get started, and actually today is Saturday. So there are very less number of articles which are relevant from our examination point of view. And actually there is no opinion page, there is no text and context. Okay. So and even an editorial page, so there are many articles which are related to elections of US and Sri Lanka. So we are not going to bother about that. Okay. So now let us see the first article. So actually in international edition of Delhi, I found this image in the front page. So what does this image shows about? So one truck which had been went into the ground, right? So what is this phenomena which you can see in your geography? It is called as sinkholes. Okay, so this topic it is from your geography. So it is called as sinkhole. So this topic you will be see from your GS paper 1 under geography and in your world geography. So where exactly you will be studying this topic in your geography is landforms. So landforms formed by groundwater. And here in this landforms, you always referring two types of landforms. One will be erosion landforms and second one will be depositional landforms. Depositional landforms and erosional landforms. So here the sinkhole, which is an example of erosion. So here you can study this topic, and even in geography, you can also relate this topic with another area. So what is that area is? Weathering. So you will be seeing this topic called as weathering, and in this weathering we have three types of weathering. First one will be biological weathering, and second one is chemical weathering, and third one is physical weathering. So in your chemical weathering, so we have different types. So this sinkhole comes under solution. So what is this phenomena of solution? Solution is nothing but whenever water is mixing with limestone. So this water will dissolve this limestone and it forms a solution. Okay. So this is the concept of chemical weathering. So where you can connect this topic. So first one is landforms formed by groundwater. So there you will be referring your erosion landforms, and second part is type of weathering. So in which you have to refer chemical weathering. Okay. So here you have to know about how this sinkhole had been formed. So we have to apply these two concepts here. Okay, for example, if you are taking limestone here. Okay, so this is your limestone. So whenever groundwater which is moving, so it will be coming in contact and it will be forming a solution here and it will be forming a hole. So this is called as sinkhole. So if there are two or three sinkholes which are formed and if they are connected, then that is called as a dough line. And below this sinkhole, if we are having a big hole which is beneath this sinkhole, that is called as a shallow hole. So like this, you will be referring different kind of erosion landforms formed by groundwater. Let us see that clearly. So sinkholes, they are funnel shaped depressions having an average depth of 3 to 9 meters. So what is the depth of the sinkholes? It will be like 3 to 9 meters in area, and it may vary from 1 square meter to more. So if the large limestone is there, so the depth of the sinkhole may be very huge compared to that of shallow limestone. So these holes, they are developed by enlargement of cracks. For example, if there is any crack which is formed in this rock, so whenever this crack is formed, means the seepage of water will happen inside this rock, and that will leads to chemical weathering. That is the phenomena which is causing solution. Okay, so below this sinkholes, we will be having shallow holes. So I will be showing you some important erosional landform features of water, that is groundwater. So sinkhole or dolmen, limestone pavement, and next one here is we have shrinking stream, and we have caves, and we have other depositional features like stalactite, stalagmite, and pillars. Okay. Now let us see the next important article. So recently we are discussing about prevention of money laundering, like FATF is in news. So when we discussed FATF, we also discussed about ED, Enforcement Directorate, right? So here there is one article in our newspaper which says ED raids 18 places in money laundering case against firm. So what are the keywords here? There are two important keywords. First one is ED and second one is money laundering. First one is Enforcement Directorate or Directorate of Enforcement, whatever it may be. And next one is money laundering. So from which subject you can connect this? So you can say this from your GS paper to under governance point of view. Okay, and here money laundering you can see from GS paper 3 under economy. Okay, so what are the dimensions you have to see? So you have to see just some facts regarding ED and as well as what are the objectives of ED and under which acts ED will be conducting raids. Okay, so this will be very important. So which acts will give the power to ED? So on this you will be getting question in your prelims. And here in money laundering you have to understand what is this concept of money laundering and what are the different steps in this money laundering and what is the impact of money laundering. So in this impact you can see many dimensions, multi-dimensions you have to see. And you have to see what are the laws present in India to control this money laundering. For example, we have Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and you have to give some measures to control this money laundering in our country. So all these dimensions are very important from your mains. You will be getting only mains based question from this money laundering. Is that clear? Okay. And one more thing here is yesterday itself we did analysis of essay of mains 2024. I think the video had not been published or like uploaded in YouTube. So by today evening you will be getting video on analysis, clear-cut analysis and how to write essay and which points you have to include along with examples, and I also gave clear-cut idea regarding how you have to write introduction, and our foundation students they actively participated and you can understand like how they are advanced, and even you can get lots and lots of insights like how to write an essay. And if you watch that video then there will be no doubt I guess regarding essay and philosophical essay you will be feeling more easy than compared to current affairs based essay regarding social media. Okay. And please try to ensure that you will be watching that video, sure. Okay, don't miss that. And even we are also giving a live of analysis of your UPSC 2024 mains, and today I will be taking most probably GS paper 1 and the time will be around 4:30 to around 6, and I will be sharing you the link in the different groups of Telegram, so please do join that live class, and this live class will be on our app. So if you don't have our Rathore Science Academy app, so please download app, and the app link is given in the description, don't forget, and there I will be taking the live class, so you can attend this live class. Okay, so if you see some facts regarding this ED Enforcement Directorate or Directorate of Enforcement, it is a domestic law enforcement agency. Domestic means within India, and it is also an economic intelligence agency, and this body which is responsible for enforcing of economic laws, and it is responsible for fighting economic crimes in our country. So money laundering is also one of the economic crime that will be dealt by this ED. So if you see the origin of this ED, it dates back to 1956. So at that time we have this enforcement unit, and it mainly established for especially controlling exchange control laws violations under this Foreign Exchange Regulation Act of 1947. And which ministry will be taking care of? That is Department of Revenue under Ministry of Finance. It is very important. And if you see what are the primary objectives of ED, primary objective is nothing but It will be taking care of three important acts of Government of India. First one is Foreign Exchange Management Act, that is also called as FEMA. And next one is PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And third one is Fugitive Economic Offenders Act. So these three acts will be taken care by ED. Okay, so this is about this article, and let us see the next article. Okay, title says SC asks government to explain delay in the appointment of judges. So what is the keyword here? So keyword is appointment of judges. So keyword is appointment of judges. So it may be judges of Supreme Court or High Court. So who will take care of appointing of judges and transferring of judges of Supreme Court and High Court? That system is called as collegium system. You have to remember this for sure. So collegium system is responsible for appointment and transfer of judges of Supreme Court and as well as High Court. Okay. So if you're talking about how this collegium system is formed, you have to see series of Supreme Court judgments. So this collegium system had came into existence by second judge case. So in the second judge case, that led to establishment of this collegium system, and this collegium system will be dealing with the appointment of judges for Supreme Court and as well as High Courts. Okay. So if you see this collegium system, so there are some challenges in the collegium system, and I discussed these challenges in our earlier classes. So what are they? So there is lack of accountability, and they are not following any criteria like how they are deciding the names of judges to be appointed or transferred. And in the case of transfer, there is no criteria like why they are getting transfer. And next one here is they are not even displaying the names of the judges to be appointed or to be transferred. And actually, there is huge delay in even deciding the names. So if this collegium system is delaying, then obviously what happens, the appointment of judges will be late. So what happens if the appointment of judges is late? Whenever there is delaying of appointment of judges, then what happens? There will be the problem of increasing of vacancies. And recently we discussed one report. As per 2022, there were 3 Supreme Court judges are vacant, and in High Courts more than 370 judges they were vacant. So whenever there is increasing of vacancies, that will leads to increasing of pendency of cases, and even that will leads to increasing of burden of cases on already existing judges. So finally what happens? There will be decreasing of efficiency of judiciary. Right? So because of this, now Supreme Court is asking why there is delay in this appointment of judges process to the government, because government will be taking care of this collegium system. Okay, so from where or which subject you can deal with this? From GS paper to under polity. And polity in your judiciary. So in judiciary of India, we have 3-tier system. Top court is our Supreme Court, and top court of state is High Court, and lowest court or district courts are called as subordinate courts. In the subordinate courts, we have 2 types. So one is civil court and next one is criminal court. Okay, so these things that you have to know. Okay, now let us see something deep in this article. So the Supreme Court has demanded that government need to clarify why they are making delays in appointment of judges, why government is delaying in this appointment of judges, why their names are not reiterated by the collegium system for extended periods. So why there is even delay which is happening with this collegium system. So here Supreme Court wants answer from government and as well as this collegium system members why there is delay is happening. So court also said that collegium system should not be treated merely as a search committee, and government need to provide a status of update on pending names within a week. So whichever the names of judges they are pending with this collegium system, so they have to reveal the names within a week. So this is a thing which mainly said by Supreme Court. So what can you understand by this step of Supreme Court? Why Supreme Court is asking government like there should not be any delay? For what? For what? So as you all know that judiciary is independent, but if you see appointment of these judges, whether this whole institution is an independent? No, right? So here the government will be interfering in this appointment process. So whenever the appointment process delaying, it will be also affecting integrity of judiciary. Am I right? Okay. So here you have to know about to maintain the crucial integrity of judiciary, we need proper appointment process. There should be no delaying of appointment of the judges. And next one is, if you see this Collion system, so Collion system which had been established under second judges cases. So when you are reading your judiciary in your Lakshmikant, especially in the Supreme Court chapter, so you will be coming across 4 judges cases. So first judge case, second judge case, third and fourth. And actually in this second judge case, we established this Collion system, and after that, we came up with this NJS, that is National Judicial Appointment Committee, and we made it as a constitutional body even. But even the Supreme Court stuck down as null and void, and again we came back to this Collion system. Now this Collion system is related to transfer and appointment of judges for Supreme Courts and as well as High Courts. And next one here is, so this article is saying that we need to follow the legal framework. And next one here is, if the delay in judicial appointment is happening, that will reflect broader administrative inefficiencies. So what happens, whether this legal system will function efficiently? No. So whenever there is delaying of appointment of these judges, that will delay or that will hinder the functioning of our legal system. And what happens? So because of this delay, what happened? There is prolonged vacancies in key judicial positions. Even in Supreme Court also you are having vacancies. So is that correct to have vacancies in the topmost judicial system of our country? No, right? So that is the thing which is highlighted by Supreme Court here. And actually here court's position which limits the government's discretionary power concerning Collion recommendations, and they want this Collion system to be more transparent and accountable regarding this appointment process. Why now Supreme Court is asking to show or display the names which are present with this Collion system within a 1 week, because they want this Collion system to be more transparent and as well as accountable. And next one here is, so this action of Supreme Court can make you understand that yes, it is a very immediate action that need to be taken. Okay, so because you are prioritizing the judicial appointments to ensure robust and effective legal system. So these are the points that you have to get, and these are the keywords that you have to include in your answers. Okay, say this article, blockchain smart materials among innovative projects mooted in PM Solar scheme. So what is this PM Solar scheme is about? Solar means solar energy. What is this? It is a type of renewable energy. Okay, why we need this renewable energy? Why we need this renewable energy? Okay, for sustainable development goals, only for sustainable development goals. PM Solar scheme. So tell me from which subject we can connect this article? From GS paper 3 under Science and Technology, from GS paper 3 under Environment and Ecology, and from GS paper 2 under Governance. Next, so from Science and Technology you have to see about, for solar thing we need solar panels. For that you have to need this lithium ion batteries. Okay, so you have to see about battery technology to make this solar energy sustainable. And from Environment and Ecology, yes, to combat this climate change, we need to move from non-renewable towards, non-renewable towards renewable. So for this solar energy is one source that we are using. Okay, so what is the target of generating solar energy in our country? No. Yes, 500 gigawatts by, what is the target year? Yes, by 2030 we have to generate 500. Actually earlier the target was just 125 gigawatts, we already crossed that, and now the target had been improved to 500 gigawatts of generation of solar. But can we achieve this target of 500 gigawatts according to your knowledge? Okay, so how can we attain that? How can we attain this target of generating 500 gigawatts of electricity from the solar? So we can, what are the ways that you can use this solar? In which ways? Like you can use rooftops, solar rooftops, and next? Hmm? Okay, on desert, in deserts and as well as on even water surfaces, we are planning this rooftops. Next, yes, in agriculture, especially we will be having a large barren land. So in that barren lands, we can go for solar parks. Solar parks. Next. Okay, so these are things, and especially you have to know about what is this PM Solar scheme and what are the main features, objectives, eligibility criteria. So why government came up with this scheme? So why government came up with this scheme? So if you want to have reach this target of 500 gigawatts, government alone cannot do that, right? So government can establish solar parks or something, but even people need to contribute that. Okay, yes, right? So because of this, government will be giving subsidies to install this rooftops under this scheme so that we can achieve this target of generating 500 gigawatts of solar power. Okay, now let us see this article in detail. So the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy has announced a 500 crore fund for innovative projects under rupees 75,000 crore PM Surya Ghar scheme. So actually the important scheme you have to know is PM Surya Ghar scheme. So actually many of you might be knowing about this scheme because I gave one mains question in that. You quoted an example as PM Surya Ghar scheme. So what is that question? Can you recall that question? Is it in PM Drive? Yes, right? So I gave one mains question regarding PM E-Drive. So in that question, so they gave an example, they quoted this PM Surya Ghar. So many of you might be knowing about this scheme, right? Okay. So actually in this proposal, they want to include blockchain technology and as well as smart materials so that we can integrate this electric EVs also, that electric vehicle integration also we can use by using this solar power. Okay. So what are the key things that you have to see? So the key things here is government is saying that we are going to give the fund. So in the funding also, they want to take some innovations, like they want to include some solar technology solutions and that too blockchain technology, so that they want to transform rooftop solar landscape than compared to the earlier. Earlier we used to use only lithium ion batteries. Now we are also going to use this blockchain technologies so that we can harness more amount of energy. And next one here is whenever we are integrating smart materials and blockchain, that will also increase our efficiency and even that will lead to more sustainable energy use. Because if you are using this lithium ion batteries, there are also some disadvantages. Like if you want to replace them, it will be very costly, right? The maintenance cost will be very high if we want to replace the batteries, right? So because of this, if you're using this kind of technology, we can increase the efficiency and we can also decrease the maintenance cost, and even it will be more sustainable than compared to lithium ion. And this one here is they are giving around 60% of financial support from government. That means whatever the barriers are there initially to install this solar panels or solar things for the people, that can be overcome because government is giving 60% of funding, and so that here it will be becoming more accessible and affordable for the households to install them. And this one is actually there is increasing of registrations under this scheme so that they will be getting 60% of funding from the government itself. And we can understand that yes, public are also showing interest towards solar energy. That means they want to even shift towards sustainable living methods. And this one here is, you can see actually this scheme will be very much helpful for our long-term vision, especially we are committed for the sustainable growth in our solar capacity. We can achieve this if people are giving some support. Okay. And next one here is we are also empowering community because they can generate their own electricity now, right? So if they are having their rooftop panels, so whatever the electricity they need for their use, household consumption, so they can generate them. And even if they are generating more, they can sell to the government through discoms, right? So in this way, people will be also getting empowered. So these are the key points that you have to see. And actually, I want to say about one more scheme, that is PM Surya Ghar Mufti Bijli Yojana. So actually, it is central scheme and it is focusing on adoption of solar rooftop systems. And what is the aim? The aim it is to provide free electricity to 1 crore households in this India, because whenever government is providing subsidy to install this rooftop solar electricity units, so actually every households they can have the capacity of producing about 300 units of free electricity every month, and if they are generating more, they can sell to the government. Okay, so these are the things. And what will be the benefits of providing this kind of schemes for the people? So we'll be having economic benefits. So what will be the economic benefits? Household will be getting reduced electricity bills, right? So they will be generating their own electricity. So yeah, disadvantage to government to some extent. And even they will be sometimes getting some additional income if they are generating more, if they are selling to discoms. And next one here is they can generate solar power. Okay, and because of this, what happened? There will be increasing of lifetime of people also, because of decreasing of climate change. Obviously, life expectancy can be increased, and even we can decrease the carbon emissions. Why? Because when we generate electricity by using coal, we will be releasing carbon dioxide emissions. But if you are using this renewable source, we can decrease this carbon emissions, and we can reach our target of carbon neutrality or zero, net zero by 2070. And even we can create jobs in this solar sector. Clear? No doubts, right? Okay, so see this article. Economy is going for you, right? What happened in yesterday's class? What is the topic? Okay, appreciation, depreciation. Okay, devaluation. Okay, so see this title, pivot to watch. US federal rate reduction could spell relief for developing economies. So I'm not going to teach anything, you have to say the things. So I will give you the gist. So you know about US, right? So in US, they have federal bank. Federal bank is nothing but, in India we have central bank, that is RBI. In the same way, US is also having the central bank is called as federal bank. So in federal bank, they decreased interest rate now. Okay, they decreased interest rate. And now this article is saying that because of this step of decreasing of interest rate, it will be helpful for developing countries. It will be helpful for developing countries. And see here, my question is how? How it is helpful for developing countries? No, tell me clearly. Hmm. Okay, my question. Okay, so listen to me carefully. So if interest rate is decreasing, means what happens in US? So if interest rate is decreasing in US, what happens in the banks of US? Whether there will be increasing of deposits or not? Yes or no? Yes, there is decreasing of deposits and savings. Decreasing of deposits nothing but decreasing of savings, right? Okay. So people will show less interest to save their money in banks. That means how they will use their money? Yes, they will focus on investment in other countries. So mostly they will increase investment. Where? In that US? No. In other countries. So now developing countries, they are having option of attracting more investment. So what happens if these developing countries, they are attracting more investment? Yes, job creation. Come on, tell me, job creation. Yes, infrastructure development. Yes, economic growth. Yes, more foreign reserves. Come on, you can. Yes, innovations. Okay, we can increase research and development. Next. Come on, say, go on. Yes, it will increase production. Obviously, it will increase exports. Now, is that clear? So this is this article. It is as simple as that. So now interest rate in Federal Bank of US had been decreased. So that will lead to decreasing of deposits and savings in the US banks. And now this US people, they will be looking for investment out of their country. So they will be having options to invest in developing countries where they will be getting more returns. For in return, this developing countries, they will be also getting advantage. There will be job creation, increasing of manufacturing, increase of production, increasing of exports, innovation, R&D, infrastructure development, economic growth, everything. So one more question. So in these developing countries, whether India is there or not? Whether India will be one of option for this people in US to invest or not? Yes, right. But there is a very less chance because already we had lots of private investments we got in this year. So maybe India is not going to be get helped from this interest rate. So that is the thing which is given here. So here I will show you. So US federal rate reduction could spell relief for developing economies, and US Federal Reserve has cut interest rates for the first time over 4 years. From last 4 years, this time it had been cut because of impact of COVID-19 pandemic. So due to this COVID-19 pandemic, each and every economy of the world had been affected. So they want to maintain their economic stability. So for that, they don't want their currency to go out of their country. So because of this, they increase interest rates so that they will have the proper savings and deposits in the bank. But now, after 4 years, this interest rates had been decreased by US Federal Bank. So now here they are focusing on the shift to maintain labor market, and they want to have the moderate growth, and they want to control inflation in their countries. So actually here this article is saying that mostly developing economies, they will be getting some relief, but although the impact for nations like India will be very less because which already have attract significant investments from US. So from US we already got some investment, so there may be, so it is just an assumption, we don't know clearly like how it is going to impact, but there is an assumption that India can attract a very less amount of investments. Okay, so I am very clear it is just an assumption. So what are the key points that you have to see? So here you have to see rate cut significance. So because of this federal bank decision of decreasing of interest rate, so why? Because of increasing of economic pressures, and as well as they want to ease financial conditions globally and to promote global economic growth. So this decision had been taken because global trade will be depending on just dollar, right? So most whatever the trade we are doing, so about 40 to 50% of trade will be done in dollar rather than compared to that of other currency. So what will be the impact on developing countries? So they are already emerging markets. So because of COVID-19 pandemic, they are struggling a lot, especially developing and as well as less developed countries. So it is like a one good news for those countries. And next one here is, so India's position, if you see this action of Federal Bank, so it may provide limited immediate benefits for India that could enhance foreign investment prospects, especially in debt markets. And if you're talking about this global capital flows here, so Federal Bank is easing this cycle, especially they want to re-emerge or they want to emerge in this capital market so that that will be helpful in economic growth and stability. And even that will be helpful for infrastructure development. So especially these US, they can invest in infrastructure in Africa, in Latin America, so that they will be getting more benefits compared to that of India. So that's the thing that you have to see, that's it. Yes, to some extent, inflation will be obviously decreased. Whenever we are getting investment, whenever we are increasing production, obviously the goods supply will be increased in the market. So whenever the goods supply increased, obviously the price can be decreased. And say this article, staunch the breach. So this article is talking about Indus Water Treaty. So why this Indus Water Treaty is in news? India and Pakistan, why it is in news? So from 2023 onwards, India is trying to come up with negotiations with Pakistan, but from Pakistan side there is no response. And yesterday in our class we discussed that yes, we are going to stall negotiations between India and Pakistan regarding this Indus Water Treaty. Is it good? So actually in our Indus Water Treaty that we signed, so it said that mandatorily for every at least once in a year we have to meet. But there is no proper meeting from 2023. Now we are in 2024 and even now September. So it is going on. That means if we are not having talks, whether we can call it as we are following the treaty? No. Then what happens? What is the relevance of this treaty then? Have you got my question? Then what we have to do now? So that is the thing which is said in this article. What can we do? So what are the choices of options for India? So if you are a IFS officer, suppose if you are posted in Pakistan embassy, then how will you negotiating about this Indus Water Treaty with Pakistan? Now it is your responsibility. What can you do? Yes. BRICS is not part of Pakistan. Next. Okay, international. Okay. So rather than that, I want about one international organization which brokered this treaty between India and Pakistan. Which organization? Yes, World Bank. So can we use this World Bank for negotiations? If you are IFS officer, what can you do? I gave you a hint also. Now tell me. Okay, next. So what? Come on, think. You're officer now. What will you do? You'll sit idle? If if I'm doing nothing also, I will be getting salary. Is this your idea? No, you have to do something. So what will you do? It is your responsibility. If you're an IFS officer, you're sitting in Pakistan embassy, then what is the work you're going to do? How will you be negotiating? So yeah? Yes. Hmm. Hmm. What will you say in that? Okay. Okay. Next. Come on. I want exact answer. What can you do? Retreaty. If you go on retreaties, how many treaties will be coming? So which treaty will be following? Huh? Stopping the supply of water, it will cause world war. Mm. Okay, let us see what this article is saying about. So India and Pakistan, they are at an impasse over Indus Water Treaty and India is demanding renegotiations. But because of no response from this Pakistan from 2023, and we said that we are suspending the meetings of Permanent Indus Commission. So I said that yes, under this Indus Water Treaty, we came up with establishment of this Permanent Indus Commission. So here every once in an year, there is a mandatory negotiation should be done under this Permanent Indus Commission. But there is no response from Pakistan side. So India decided that we are going to start this. So the tensions have escalated since 2016. Okay, from 2016 onwards, what happened? There is no proper political engagement, and in Pakistan also there is no proper political stability, and inflation was very high. And recently in 2022 there was floods in Pakistan. Okay, so because of this, there is no proper bilateral relationship, and even in the recent times there is increasing of terrorism, increasing of insurgency in this Jammu and Kashmir. Yes or no? Yes. So here this article is saying that now this treaty is under threat. So whenever we are demanding for renegotiation, which says that yes, there is a fundamental shift in how both countries are viewing this treaty. Actually, India is giving respect for this treaty, so that India is asking to come for the talks. But Pakistan is not at all responding. That means Pakistan is not giving any respect to this treaty. That means we can understand that in future there may be a chance of breaking down of this treaty between India and Pakistan. Okay, so this is the one thing that you can understand. And this one is the rise of nationalist rhetoric that will leads to a complication of diplomatic efforts that once focused on cooperation, shared resources. So actually, you know that this Himalayan river system, they are not only flowing in a country, they are flowing in different countries. You can take in the case of Indus, you can take in the case of Brahmaputra or Ganga. But this Indus is very complicated because of our enemy country. So, because whenever whatever the diplomatic efforts that we are taking from government side, if they are not going smooth, means what happens? So, we can understand that there may be loss of cooperation in the sharing of resources in the near future. And next, if you see the historical context regarding this Indus Water Treaty, so actually even WB, that is World Bank, also came up with a neutral expert. So if there are any conflicts between India and Pakistan regarding this Indus Water Treaty, so even World Bank will be brokering by giving a neutral expert, and they will try to resolve this issue. But now even that model had not been gave any response here. So that is also one thing that you have to focus on. And even World Bank is also allowing parallel dispute process, which created confusion, like whether we have to go for World Bank panel or like whether we have to go for this permanent Indus Commission. So because of these two dispute resolution mechanisms in this Indus Water Treaty, so again we don't have a clear-cut demarcation of international mediation efforts. So this is also one important problem. And even we are having some security concerns with Pakistan, like military tensions are increasing of violence in Jammu and Kashmir. It is not just about Indus Water Treaty, but even we are also having issues with border security as well. So making dialogue is becoming very critical if you compare with the past periods also. So because of this here, Pakistan, they are not interested to have the negotiations with India. And even in 2019 onwards, there were lots of changes which happened in Jammu and Kashmir, like abrogation of Article 370 and Article 335A. So because of this, there is an impact of bilateral relations between India and Pakistan. And even here in future, we are going to have the climate change. So as you all know that if this treaty is brokered, who will be affected more, India or Pakistan? Pakistan will be affected more, because you know the climate change is happening and melting of glaciers is happening at a very fast pace. So whenever melting of glaciers is happening, initially there will be increasing of water level in this rivers. Obviously, this is lower riparian state, Pakistan. India is upper riparian state. So from this country, it is going to this country. That means this country will be affected more. For example, after some years, what happened? After melting of glaciers, there will be very less number of water in these rivers. If you go for construction of dams, who will be get affected? Obviously, Pakistan, right? So here we have to take into consideration even climate change, how it is focusing on the future resource management, and Pakistan need to be focused on in which areas we can have the negotiations. And you can also understand about future prospects, and we are going to have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meet, and in that meeting India and both Pakistan, they are members. So we can use this organization and we can engage diplomatically and we can address this issue, and we can take some steps for revitalizing of this treaty once again. Clear? Yes, India is member of SCO. Yes, meeting can be held on sidelines of the meeting. Yes, we can have talks. Yeah, in Shanghai Cooperation Organization and even SARC. SARC. Yeah, see articles. Food price volatility is still a contingent risk, says RBI. So actually there is increasing of vegetable prices. Which vegetable spot? Potato, onion and tomato. So because of this, there is, in future you are going to have food inflation. So because of food inflation, we can expect CPI. Okay. And next one here is India not an abuser of tariffs. Trump's claims unfair. GTRI. So as you all know that the issue which is going on between US and India in WTO. So recently US raised a question regarding fishery subsidies. So because of this fishery subsidies which is given by government of India, which is affecting free and fair trade in international market. And again, former US president, do you know about this Donald Trump? Donald Trump made a statement. He said that India is an abuser of import tariff. So India is increasing import duty. So because of this, what happens? So what is import duty? Okay, import duty is nothing but when we are importing goods from country 2 to country 1, on these goods, government will be imposing tax. It is called as import duty. So what happens whenever there is increasing of import duty? This imports will become costly. Okay, imports will become costly. So the same goods are present in domestic markets, like domestic goods will be there and imported goods. So domestic goods are less costly or cheaper compared to that of imported goods. So there will be increase in demand for whom? Domestic goods. Okay, so because of increasing of demand for these domestic goods, indigenous industries or domestic industries, they will be improved. So what happens? This foreign goods will be less competitive in the market, and because of this it will be affecting foreign countries' economy, or international trade will be get affected. So this is the thing which mainly said here, that's it. So here India said that no, we are not that. Okay, so directly they said that India is an abuser of import tariff. It is unfair as many nations, they protect their domestic industries by posing high custom duties and certain products. So this is the thing which mainly said by US, and India is condemning this statement. Clear? That is the thing. Huh? Yes, US elections is there, Sri Lanka elections also there. And we will be getting results soon. So that again we have to see how which government will be forming, and again India and that country's relations, how it is going to be changed. Let us see who will form the government. So these are the important topics that happened in our today's Hindu newspaper. So by this I'm concluding. And if you really like this class, so please hit the like button, please do share. And today also by 4 to 4:30 we'll be having class as usual on our app, that too live class. So if you want to join that, so I will be sharing you the link in this description box, or else I will be sharing the link in the groups, so you can join the class. Yesterday we had the class on essay analysis on section B of essay, and today there will be most probably the class will be on GS paper 1, and I will be taking class till we complete the analysis of your UPSC mains 2024. So actually we are having GS 1, 2, 3, 4, and I also have to complete essay analysis of section A of your essay. So for the next 5 days, we will be having everyday class at 4:30. Okay, so please do join that class. Don't forget. And don't forget to subscribe to Rathod's IAS Academy. And thank you so much for watching, guys.